Hi there, welcome to aipython. This is lesson number 21 of Python tutorial for beginners series. In this video, you will learn when and how to use break, continue and pass in Python, especially with control structures such as for loop, while loop. Generally, we use loops to iterate over an entire sequence or range of data, but some of the time it doesn't require to scroll through the entire data in order to search specific thing. Rather, we want to either terminate or take some action when it matches certain condition. Break, pass and continue will help us to implement similar logic. By utilizing break, continue and pass, we can perform faster execution of a given task, thus saving the time. After watching this video, you will understand and able to use break, pass and continue in Python. In case you want to jump over to a specific portion of the content, then make sure to use content timestamp of this video available in the description of this video. A detailed blog with source code is also available at our website aipython.in. Do check out them in case if you are interested. Let's look at the agenda for this video. In this video, you will learn what is break, continue and pass. You will understand how to use break with the help of example and flow diagram. At the same time, how you can use continue in Python with the help of flow diagram and a real example. As well as you will also learn pass statement and how you can use pass for both function and for control structure. We will see pass with the help of some example in Python. At the end, we will also see how you can use the complete structure like break, continue and pass together in one program and achieve certain result, right? Let's get started. So we'll start with the break. What is break actually? Break in Python is used to achieve early exit from a control structure such as for loop or while loop. So these are the control structure, for loop and while loop, and break will help us to exit early rather than iterating through each element in the sequence. If you want to exit from a loop before even continuing till the last element when you met certain condition, in that case you can use break statement. Let's first understand it through the flow diagram. So loop start, it checks for a condition. Doesn't matter whether it's for loop or while loop, it checks for the condition. If the condition satisfied and it is in true statement, like if the output of the condition is true, it goes inside the body of the loop, right? And if it finds a break statement either directly or inside that loop, or for example if I am using nested loop like if inside for loop or if inside while loop, then it detects, if it detects certain condition and I want to break the statement, then I can use the keyword break there. If the loop detects break, doesn't matter at what point of execution it is, it will just exit from the while loop or for loop, and if it is not present, then loop will continue. Don't worry about it. In case if you have not understood, you will definitely understand it when I will be showing a live example in which I will be using break statement to exit from loop before it actually completes the full execution. So when do you need to get early exit from a loop? Why it is required? Let's say you have a list which is having some element and you wanted to scan through the list from starting to end. In the conventional programming, suppose you want to apply a for loop or while loop on this list and you want to find whether 0 is there or not. In general, you will iterate through the loop and you go by each element and you wanted to compare each element with the value 0. If it is found, you will return a value of true. But let's say if I wanted to break this loop at 0, let's say if 0 is detected, then I wanted to break this loop. I do not want to continue further element. So in this case, you can use break statement to get early exit. This is just to make you understand that how break actually is used. Don't worry, this is just an introduction of all the topics first. So first we'll understand break, continue and pass separately. Then we'll go into the programming and see how you can use break actually. In case if you wanted to skip directly to the programming section, you can use the content timestamp provided in the description of this video. Let's jump over to continue. So what continue does? Continue is used to skip the current execution, as contrary to break, which used to exit the loop. It doesn't exit the loop, it actually skip that particular iteration which it is going through, right? And control of the loop points at the beginning of the loop. That means whatever execution is going on, if I made certain condition and I wanted to skip that condition, I can use continue. Loop will point to the next value and it keeps on iterating further. Let's understand it with the help of a flow diagram. For example, loop start and check for a condition and goes inside the body of the loop, and it detects that continue is there. For example, it will skip the execution, right? The current section is skipped and it goes to the next value. For example, I is at value of 2 and certain condition is met, then it will not execute the second value of I, but instead it go to the third value without even executing the second value. So this is how it works. Continue will not support in exiting the loop prior to the maturity of the execution. So when do you need to skip the current execution? We will take the same example as we have taken in the break statement. Let's say we have a list which start from 6 and end at 8, and I want to traverse through each element, but if I detect 0, I wanted to skip that particular iteration, right? So it will in normal case it will go through each element, but or I wanted to skip the execution when it detects 0. That is our intention. Don't worry, this is all I have told you. These are all general topics which you need to understand. The concept you need to understand before actually implementing it in the program. So this is how you can use continue. In short, continue is basically used to skip the current execution and will continue with the remaining iteration. We will see what is pass. Pass is a null operation in Python. If you are hearing this for the first time, don't worry at all. Which means nothing happens when it executes it. And null operation and comments, if you say comment is also not executed by Python, but that's a different thing, right? When you put hash and write something, it is just for the user or the programmer to understand that what is the need for implementation or some comment about the particular section of the code, which also doesn't get executed. But Python has provided certain facility where you can use pass. If you say I can use hash instead of pass, no, you can't use. You will be able to understand them in the example section. Python pass keyword is used to create the code skeleton without popping up syntactical error during the code compilation. Let me first give you a glimpse of how the flow diagram works. Basically, loop will start, it will check the condition. If the condition is true, it goes inside the body of the loop, but here is the trick. If there is a pass, that means I have just created this loop, but I do not want to use this loop, or I have created a function, but I do not want to use this function. I will be using it in the later stage, right? So in that case, you can use pass. So when interpreter runs and it detects there is a pass, it will understand that, okay, this is a work in progress kind of task, and the programmer is asking me not to evaluate this one, just pass this step. So interpreter will pass, it will not throw any error, even if there is nothing inside the loop or nothing inside the function. Let's quickly understand it. So when to use pass? For example, you have been given a task to calculate based on the sensor data some calculation, right? So at this point of time, maybe at the beginning of the project, you do not have any sensor connectivity to your project, but you know that this is going to be one function which exists in the future and I'll do some calculation. So in that case, you can define a function. For instance, here I have defined def sensor underscore calculation and sensor data. So this program, this particular section of the program is purely dependent on the sensor data, which is not available right now. So what I can do, I will define this function and just pass, use the keyword pass. So when I will execute the complete program, interpreter detect that this function has been asking me not to check the content of this function, just pass over to this function. So interpreter will not throw any error, it will just pass and continue executing the remaining portion of the program which is there after the pass statement. Alright, I hope you understand, and you are going to understand it better when we will be using this all in the Python program. Now let's understand break with the help of example in Python. You will learn about using break in for loop and also with while loop. Let's see first with for loop. So how we can use break in for loop. Let's say I want to iterate through a range of data from 0 to 9, which is range 10. So for I in range 10, I wanted to print a statement that inside the loop, right? Currently I'm inside the loop and current value is whatever value of the current iteration of I, right? And I wanted to check if I equal to 4. At value 4, if the current iteration value is equal to 4, then I will exit the loop and I will print a statement now outside the loop and after the break, right? Okay, so we will write this example in Python and execute it. So I've written the program as you can see here for I in range 10, right? And print inside the loop and the current value of I is current value of I, right? Now I am using a if statement here, and if I equal to 4, right? If the value of I is equal to 4, so then I'll be using break statement, and make sure that break statement should be indented right inside the if statement. You can also directly use break here if you are not using if statement, but if you are using if statement, then break should be inside the if statement, right? So this indentation ensure that this break is inside the if statement, and only if I equal to 4 is true, then break will terminate this loop and it will come outside the loop and it will print now outside the loop. Let's execute this code, and as you can see here, so for I equal to 0, it will start with 0. 0 will not be equal to 4, so it will not break the statement or it will not break the loop instead, and it will continue to print the value of I is 0. In the second instance it is 1, in the third instance it is 2, 3. Similarly, the fifth iteration, the value of I will be 4, and it will print first that inside the loop and the current value of I is 4. If here this condition will be true, so it will go inside and it will break. So after 4, nothing will print inside, right? And as you can see, this state that the loop has been exited, this break statement was able to terminate this loop at value 4 itself, and now printing now outside the loop. As you can see here, this fourth iteration is there. Suppose you don't want to use break, instead you want to iterate through the entire sequence, then you can ignore this line, right? You can uncomment this line and save and run, and you can see here the complete from 0 to 9 has been printed, and after completing the iteration it is exiting the loop. So as you can see here, in order to find 4, I don't have to execute this 5 to 9, right? And thus we are able to early exit the loop and thus saving the time, right? Whatever operation was required we have achieved, and we exited the loop instead of iterating through the entire sequence of data. I hope you understand. Okay, now we will see how you can use break with while loop. Similar to for loop, the way it broke the statement or broke the control structure for loop and exited from the for loop, the same way we can also use break with while loop. As shown here, as you can see, x was initiated with 5 and while x is less than 15. So this loop will work if the value of x is equal to 14. So if it is 15, then this loop will terminate, right? And I will write print number is less than 15, right? Because the current value is less than 15. Now I'll make a condition to break the while loop. If x equal to 7. So I started with 5. If x equal to 7, then print the number is equal to 7 and at the same time break the while loop. And if it is not equal to 7, then increment the value with 1. X plus equal to 1, which is equivalent to x equal to x plus 1. Alright, once the loop break out of the while loop, and it will say print outside the while loop to showcase that yes, loop has exited using break statement and I am outside the while loop. Alright, in case if you are not aware of for and while loop, I have a separate video on that. for separate for loop and separate for while loop, you can find the detail of this video in the description as well as at the I button given at the top right corner of this video. Let's execute this code in Python. So I've written this program and we'll execute this program to see how it performs. As you can see here, this loop started with the value of 5, right? And it says if it is for the first instance x equal to 5 and 5 is less than 15, yes, print the number is less than 15. I'm not printing the exact value of x, but I'm straight away printing this number is less than 15 anyway. Alright, and as it is 5, it is not equal to 7, so this will not execute. Straight away it goes to this line and it will update the value of x with 1, which is 6 now. Again it will be checked, 6 is less than 15, yes, it is correct. And again it will print the number less than 15 and this condition is not true, so it will again increment the value of x to 7, right? So the 3 times it will execute, right? And now it is 7. Now 7 is less than 15, yes, it is true, and this will also be printed here, number is less than 15, right? But this time this loop is true, or this time this condition is true, x equal to 7. So it enters this one and print number is equal to 7. As you can see here, number is equal to 7. It has printed and at the same time it broke. So the loop is, so this break statement help us to exit the while loop when x equal to 7. So prematurely, before even reaching 15, we are able to terminate this loop, right? And then this will not occur because we have exited the loop, and instead this value will be printed. Print outside the while loop. And here it is printed, print outside the while loop. Alright, this was super simple and I hope you understand it, right? In case if you have any doubt, please write them in the comment section, whatever your doubt is. We're going to help you out with your doubt. Now let's see the example of continue in Python code, right? Let's see a scenario where, so I'll scan through each character of a string and print each character, okay? And don't print if the letter is P. For example, I've given a string here, in this case s equal to aipython. Let's say this is the string, and if character P is found, then don't print that character, instead print everything. Alright, so how we can achieve, there are obviously certain other methods also, but try to understand the example with the help of continue, right? And how it actually works. So s equal to aipython, right? For I in s, so this iterator I will iterate through each character of this word or a string, right? In the loop itself, if I equal to P, as you can see P is in the quote which says character. So if the current value of I is equal to P, then I will print that character, whatever particular character P is found, and skipping, because I don't want to print this one. So how can I skip that? By using continue statement. So this continue statement will skip this iteration and again point it to the next iterator, which is Y in this case. In the else line, it is print current letter is whatever the plus I, whatever value of I is, and then it says print outside the loop, right? I hope you understand. Let's execute this in Python code and see how it performs. So I've written the program here and exact the same program here. Forgive me, there is an indentation issue where L should be indented just below if, right? Okay, here I have done the same thing. In this case, for I in S, if I equal to P, then only this statement will execute. Otherwise, in normal cases, if it is not, the character is not P, then this statement will execute in all the cases, right? Let's execute it and see. As you can see here, the current character is 1. It will start with first one, which is A, right? And A is not equal to P, so this statement or this section will not execute, else section will execute which says the current character is A, right? And then second one is I, the third one is P. When P is detected, I equal to P, this portion of the loop will execute and it says print character. The character P is found and skipping, right? Because I don't want to print this value. And this will be achieved, and this is achieved using continue, right? And as you can see here, after the continue, the pointer moves to the next iteration, which is y, and then the y, t, h, o, n. Again, everything will be executed except this one, p is skipped, because this is what our intention was. And finally, after executing this complete for loop, it is outside for loop and says print outside the for loop, which is printed here outside the for loop. So after this much of iteration, I am outside the for loop. Alright, this is how you can use continue to skip a particular iteration, right? Alright, okay, so I hope you understand. Let's move to the next section. Okay, now we will understand pass with some example. Here also we'll understand pass with the help of one loop, let's say while loop, and how you can use pass in function. This might be a new term for you, but okay, we are going to cover function in later videos. For the current understanding, let's understand how the pass statement can be used. You have seen break and continue, right? Break was able to provide you early exit, and continue was able to skip you the current iteration. The pass function basically allow you to not do anything, right? Simply just pass through the statement. And why we are using it, let's understand. Let's see the first code, which is an implementation of while loop, and I start with 0. While I less than 5, I plus equal to 1. Okay, so it will increment the value of I as soon as it enters the while loop, and it will check if I equal to 2, then pass. And for other value, do nothing, right? So in this case, if I equal to 2, then pass. Remaining, if I is not equal to 2, then print the current values, whatever values the iterator is having, right? You might be understanding why I'm writing pass. I should have written the print, right? But you know, after meeting certain value, I need to implement the code, right? In all those situations, if you are not aware of what you will be writing as of now, but at the same time you want that to be in the program so that it doesn't get skipped, right? While developing maybe in 20 days or 30 days or maybe after 2 months, you should be remembering that yes, at certain value I have to implement this logic, but as of now you don't know. So in all those situations you can write pass. Advantage of writing pass is it will not throw any error. I'll show you with an example what I'm talking about. Let's see this code. I have written the code here, and let's execute. But before execution, let's understand and also pay attention towards the indentation. As you can see in the while loop, this inside while loop I have used pass, which is inside the if loop. So indentation is must. That 4 space is required before writing this pass. And then this print statement is directly for while loop, not for the if. If it is like indented, then it would have worked for if, but if it is not indented, it is indented for while, so it is directly under the while loop. So if this condition doesn't matches, so this print statement will execute, and at the end of the loop, or like after exiting the while loop, this statement will be printed. Okay, let's run this code and understand first. Alright, as you can see here, what has happened? For every value of I, it is printing the current value is whatever value of I is. First, for the first instance, the value of I has already been incremented from 0 to 1. This was 0, but I plus equal to 1 becomes 0 plus 1, and now it is printed. So that's why it started with 1, right? And similarly for the second iteration, it was 2, and it says if I equal to 2, right? Then it says pass. Okay. So after writing pass, it will not do anything. Instead, it will just execute this line, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, hold on, you will understand. For instance, you'll say, okay, I'll not write pass. I don't want to write anything. Maybe in future I will write the code for this one, right? And if you try to execute it, you will see an error which says indentation block. It says near the print statement, right? Indentation is there, like the issue is there in the print statement. Actually, it's not the print statement issue. It is issues above this print statement, right? And if you write if block and if you don't define any operation inside the if block, it is like just interpreter will confuse. The programmer has mentioned if block, but he is not writing any code inside, right? In this case, you can write either you can write print, right? Okay, print I will do it later, right? Okay, this will also doesn't matter, right? This is perfectly fine, and if you execute this code, you will see here it will say I will do it later. I mean, sorry, cater I have written, it's later, right? And if I run it, you will see the current value is 1, first iteration, right? And from the second iteration, in the second iteration, the value I equal to 2. This is true, so it has printed I will do it later. So you can do this also, but it's not advisable, right? If you're writing a long code and you want this to be executed without any error, then you can simply write pass. It will help interpreter to understand that okay, there would be some logic in future, but for the time being, just pass this statement, right? And you will be good to go, and there will not be any programmatical or syntactical error as defined in the definition of pass. Let's look at another example where pass can be helpful while declaring a function. As also discussed introduction of pass function, you can use pass while defining a function. Let's say the function is dependent on a sensor data, and as of now you don't have access to sensor data because sensor is not available with you, but you need to continue with the remaining program, right? In that case, you can define a function called def, or whatever the name of function, def and the name of the function and certain argument, let's say sensor data, and pass it. So pass will help interpreter understand that yes, user has created this function, but there is nothing in this function. Because pass is there, I should ignore it and I will just continue. The interpreter will just continue. I means interpreter, I'm talking in terms of interpreter. So let's consider me as interpreter for the instance, right? And I will see the code as an interpreter and see, oh, user has written pass. That means he is intended to write this function, but maybe he's not getting all the resources at the moment, but wanted to continue with the remaining portion of the code because there might be a lot of function inside the code. For a few of the function, I don't have the logic right now, so I can create the function and use the keyword pass. This will help me as an interpreter to pass this function without throwing any error. I will understand, okay, let it be, and I will execute the remaining section whichever has been defined in that one. Alright, I hope you understand. As an interpreter, I was able to make you understand, luckily. Now, coming to the last portion of this video, here you will understand how we can combine all of them together. Yes, we can use break, continue, pass all at the same time in one program. How we can use that and why you should use it. Okay, let's understand. Let's see, this is the list we have, 6, 4, -3, 0, 29, 8. And let's see the program, what exactly it says. I have defined a list, right? And I'm iterating through the list using for I in X. If I is less than 0, whatever value of I or whatever value of the current execution, if the value is less than 0, I will straight away print current value is less than 0, just pass over. Just pass. Correct? Because I don't want to execute any negative. This is maybe this is the need of the program. So I don't want to execute any negative value. I will just pass it, ignore it, skip it, right? So I'll use pass function there. Elif I equal to 0. If the value is 0, then I will continue. I will skip that one. I will print current value is equal to 0 and keep continue. I will just skip this execution and continue to the next section where elif I greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, I wanted to break. I wanted to break the loop. Doesn't matter if I got the I in the first instance greater than 20, then I will break the loop, right? Else, if all three condition doesn't matches, then else print the current value is I. Whatever value of I is I will print it. And at the end, I will also print now outside the loop, right? Let's execute it in Python and understand. Okay, so I've written this program And here I have defined x equal to whatever this list, right? And I'm iterating through each value of element using for loop for I in x, and checking if I is less than 0, I equal to 0, I greater than 20, and based on that I'm taking all the decision whether to pass or to continue or break, right? And in normal situation, if it is not less than 0, not equal to 0, or not greater than 20, then I will execute this statement. This will be the normal statement, right? And at the end, outside the loop, right? Let's execute and see. Okay, as you can see here, the first is 6. 6 is less than 0. No, this is not true, so it will not pass. 6 is equal to 0. No, it is also not true. 6 is greater than 20. No, it is also not true. Then this statement will be printed, right? So current value of I is 6, right? Now it moved to the second one, and second one says 4. 4 is neither less than 0 nor equal to 0 nor greater than 20. So it is else condition which is printed. Current value is 4, right? Okay. The third element, which is minus 3. I is less than 0. Yes, this is the value. I is less than 0. So that's why it is printing current value is less than 0. Just pass over. So I don't want to do anything. Just pass over, right? Okay. In the fourth instance, when I equal to 0, so this condition is not true, but this condition is true. I equal to 0. Now it will say current value is equal to 0. Keep continue. I don't want to exit the loop. Just keep continuing. Okay. And the current value is equal to 0. Keep continuing. Okay. Alright. Now let's see the fourth or the fifth one. The fifth one is 29. So this condition is also not true. This condition is also not true. But this condition is true. It will enter this elif block and says, yes, this is true. So print current value is greater than 20. This will be printed. The current value is greater than 20. The code will break, right? And as you can see, this portion is not executed because this break statement will break this for loop and directly print the final statement. Otherwise, if this break is not there, it would have also printed 8. It is not printed, right? It's not executed actually. Otherwise, this would have executed the current value is 8, like this one. But since break is there, it has exited the loop, for loop, and after exiting, this statement will be printed. Now outside the loop. Alright, I hope you got the overview of break, continue, pass with the help of examples in Python, right? So that's it for this video. I did my best effort to explain each and every contents of this video. If you still have certain questions, suggestion or feedback, then please write them in the comment section. We will be more than happy to answer all your queries. Keep learning and keep growing.